All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Julie Heaton. I'm the director of the Financial Education Program. We're going to do a quick overview of public service loan forgiveness today and just go over the 4 key areas of eligibility. As a reminder, if you are seeking loan forgiveness, please do not hesitate to meet with one of our financial coaches. We can look at your loans together and see if it's a good option for you. But we want to go over the 4 major areas of eligibility right now to give you an idea of where to get started. All right, so 4 major areas of eligibility. You need to make 100 in order to receive public service loan forgiveness. You need to make 120 qualifying payments on each student loan that you're trying to get forgiven. They need to be on direct loans. So those loans must be direct. They need to be while you're on a qualifying repayment plan, meaning you're getting a bill from your loan servicer and you're making a payment on that bill. So you can't just make as many payments as you want and call them qualifying payments. And while you're working for a qualifying employer. All of these 4 things must happen simultaneously while you're set up on this program to make sure that each payment counts. So we're going to go over each of these qualifying areas in detail, and we'll start with the qualifying payments. So what's a qualifying payment? So a qualifying payment is a payment made after October 1st, 2007. It does not need to be consecutive. It must be for the full amount due under the plan. Again, your loan servicer will send you a bill and you will make a payment on that bill. And that will make it an actual transaction with your loan servicer. It cannot just be you making a payment at any time. And it has to be made within 15 days of the due date. So things to keep in mind here is that you can, and we'll talk more about the employment piece, but you can make a payment on 1 month and then go into a deferment or a forbearance and then start making payments again on the other side of that. It's the monthly payment that counts. So what I like to say is that loan forgiveness really is done monthly and not yearly. You'll hear often it's 10 years. Well, if you have 12 qualifying payments per year, but if you have less than 12 per year, it might be a little bit longer than 10 years. So a couple of more things, these might be some changes that folks need to become aware of about PSLF, but you can make multiple partial payments as long as they are all received within 15 days of the due date. It does not matter if you make 2 separate payments, they just have to add up to the amount that you need to make on your payment per month. That will qualify. If you make a payment when not required, so that's what I was talking about before, you cannot just make 10 payments in 1 month and those will qualify. It has to be for the bill that was sent to you from your loan servicer. So if you make 5 payments in 1 month and you're trying to get them all to count for that month, only one of those will count. However, a change that's happened is that you can make lump sum payments. So essentially you can pay ahead on your account. So if you make, let's say you need to pay $10 a month and you make a $50 payment, as long as the next couple of months you continue to work, next 5 months you continue to work in the public sector, those additional 4 months would count. So those lump sum payments are allowed, and the exceptions still exist for AmeriCorps, Peace Corps, and DoD if you get in touch with your loan servicer and let them know that you're participating in one of those programs. So in order to qualify for public service loan forgiveness, you also need to make sure you have eligible loans. This is probably the most important thing to make sure of from the beginning, because if you do not have the correct type of loan, none of those qualifying payments made on your account will count towards the 120 needed. So what kind of loan do you need to have? You need to have a direct federal loan. So that could be any loan that has the word direct in front of it. As you can see on the screen, there are direct Parent Plus loans, direct consolidated loans, direct undergraduate unsubsidized loans, direct graduate loans. All of those count. They're part of the direct loan program. What doesn't count would be Perkins loans or what's called an FFEL loan. Both of these loans are older types of loans. We no longer even give them out for higher ed institutions, but a lot of people who would have borrowed prior to 2010 for FFEL or prior to 2018 for Perkins loans might have a Perkins loan or an FFEL loan in their entire suite of loans. So if that's you, it is really easy to consolidate these loans and make them a direct loan. So doesn't mean that you can't get these loans to qualify in the future. It's just as long as their status is FFEL or Perkins, any payments made toward those loans will not count towards your 120 needed. So if you're in one of these cases where you're not sure what kind of loans you have, just get in touch with us. We'll go in, look at the loans, and if necessary, we can consolidate these FFEL loans or Perkins loans and make them direct consolidated loans, which will qualify. So in order to achieve loan forgiveness, you also need to make sure that you're on a qualifying repayment plan. So listed up on the screen are the 6 repayment plans that are considered qualifying. You'll notice that most of these are what we call income-driven repayment plans. So it's really important here to notice that although a 10-year standard plan is considered a qualifying payment. So if you've made payments on a 10-year, that will count towards the 120, so long as all the other areas of eligibility are met. But follow me here. If you've been making payments for 10 years on a standard plan and public service loan forgiveness requires 10 years of payments and 10 years of service, then the very day that you finish paying off your loan would be the day that you make your 120th monthly payment. So in most cases, our suggestion here is going to be to get on an income-driven repayment plan as soon as you know that you're going to seek public service loan forgiveness. Income-driven repayment plans use a percentage of your discretionary income to decide your monthly payment. So in most cases, anybody, as long as you don't have a high enough balance, you're going to have a lower monthly amount on an income-driven repayment plan. So everything that you're not paying towards your loan, let's say your standard plan was $200 a month, and on an income-driven repayment plan, you're only asked to pay $20 a month. So there you're saving $180 on your that you're not paying towards your loan each month. So ultimately, once you make those 120 payments at $20 a month, you will have not paid off the remainder amount, and that will be the amount forgiven. So whatever's left in your account balance on each loan is the amount forgiven. So like I said, as soon as you know that you are going to seek loan forgiveness, you might want to get off that standard plan if you're currently on it and switch to one of these other payments. However, standard plan is not ineligible, so you don't need to worry if you've been on one of those plans and you'd like to seek loan forgiveness. Those will still count. Qualifying employment. So this is a really important area of public service loan forgiveness because this is the public service portion. You need to be working for a qualifying employer. This can be a 501c3 nonprofit. So that's most nonprofits tax exempt, or a government job. This can be a local government, tribal government, state government, or federal government job. You have to be what's considered full-time federally, which is 30 hours a week. So even if you are considered part-time at your employer, as long as that average hours per week is around 30 and it's marked that way with your HR department, that would still be considered full-time according to public service loan forgiveness. So at least 30 hours a week. A note on that, you can also have 2 public employers that and your total hours a week equal 30. So let's say you work 15 hours at a nonprofit and you work 15 hours at a local government job. Those 2 would combine as long as you were employed at both those employers in the month that you made a payment. That would count for your 30 total hours needed. Again, this is important to align this with making that payment. So you might work for 5 months at a qualifying employer, but during that time you were on a deferment plan and you did not make any official payments, right? The servicer sends you a bill, you pay the servicer. That'd be an official payment. So if you didn't do that during those 5 months that you're working at a qualifying employer, none of those 5 payments would count. So make sure that you're in an active repayment status and you're working at least 30 hours in those months. Another question that we get a lot about qualifying employment is, what if I have a seasonal job or I piece together different seasonal jobs throughout the year? If any of those jobs are nonprofit jobs or government jobs, where you are again averaging that 30 hours a week, you can patchwork those jobs together to make, let's say, 12 months of payments per year. So for example, maybe you work for the Park Service during the summer and you make a payment every month you're working for the Park Service, at least 30 hours. And then that job ends in August, and then you work for the rest of the year at a nonprofit. And so as long as you work the entire 12 months at a nonprofit or government job, you can count all of those months that you made a payment. So you can piece jobs together and you can piece hours together. So how do you know if your employment is qualifying? The best thing to do in all of these cases, if you're thinking about loan forgiveness, is to submit this one simple form. So this is called the Public Service Loan Forgiveness and Temporary Extended PSLF Certification and Application. So this is an all-in-one form. One thing to note, there are older versions of this form floating around the internet. Make sure the expiration date says this 2023 date. So this form is everything. It is both the application to get loan forgiveness when you think you've made 120 payments, and it is the form that we use to qualify employment. What that means, and certify employment. What that means is that you fill out the first page of this form here, listing all of your information, checking which box you are submitting this form for. So you're selecting the reason, whether it's just finding out how many payments you've made towards your 120 needed, or this last one, that you think you're ready to qualify for forgiveness. You think you have that 120. So you let them know why you're turning in the form, put your name and social on the second page, and then hand this form to your employer. Usually this will be the HR department. If you don't have an HR department, ask your boss or whoever would process human resources paperwork if they'll fill out this form for you. Essentially, they're going to need to put their identification number. They will need to put some more information about the employer, and most importantly, they'll mark how long you've been employed at this organization, if you're still employed, and how many hours a week you work. So again, that's where that 30 hours a week comes in. They'll need to put at least 30 on this line 8 to make the months listed in this time period count. They should give this back to you, and then you will send this in to Fed Loan Servicing. Fed Loan Servicing is the only federal servicer that processes this form, loan forgiveness. So at some point in your public service loan forgiveness journey, you will want to move your loans from whatever servicer you're currently working with to Fed Loan Servicing. The easy part about this is that anytime you send this form in to FedLoan, it will trigger an automatic transfer of your loans from your old loan servicer to your new loan servicer. This is not a loan consolidation. It's just an internal move from one servicer to the other. So by turning this form in, it will get sent to FedLoan. If your loans aren't already with FedLoan, they will be moved. And then in response to turning in this form, FedLoan will send you a letter by mail, if that's how you requested it, or an email or a letter in the inbox of your FedLoan account, letting you know how many qualifying payments you have made towards your 120 needed. There's a really helpful tool to do this called your PSLF tracker in your myfedloan.org account. We can also help you look at that together if it's your first time navigating FedLoan. But there's just a lot of ways to interpret what they send you, making sure that you understand why your loans or why your monthly payments are qualifying or not qualifying. And if we think there's something wrong, we'll want to call FedLoan and double check and say, oh, I think I did make a payment that summer and I was working for a qualifying employer. Let's see what was happening. So that's the process. You turn in the form and they let you know how many payments you've made thus far. You want to turn in one of these forms for every employer that you are trying to count years of service for. So if this is your first time turning in any paperwork for public service loan forgiveness and certifying employment, then you will want to turn in one for every job you've had in the past that you think would qualify. So let's say I worked for, again, the Forest Service one summer, and then I worked for a nonprofit, and then I worked for a public university. I would want to send a form to each three of those entities as long as I think I made payments, qualifying payments while I was working there. So send it to each one of them. My suggestion is to bundle all those together and submit them either through the upload tool on myfedloan.org, or at least fax them or mail them all together. The reason being that if you have any overlap of either dates or hours, that you want them to be considered together as one fell swoop, and then it will only generate one response form telling you your total amount of qualifying payments. Again, come meet with us for the first time doing this. It can be a little bit tricky, so we're happy to kind of walk you through this process. Just a little note, if you work for the University of Montana, the human resources individual that you'll want to work with for this her name is Ann Jadita. She's incredibly nice and friendly, and she's a guru at all things public service loan forgiveness certification form. So give her an email if you have any questions about this. Ann does appreciate you getting this form to her either in a sealed envelope, or during COVID times, you can mail it to her, and she will send you an email when the form is complete and ready to be picked up. All right, so those were the 4 major areas of eligibility, right? So making a payment on a loan while you have a direct loan, while you're working for a qualifying employer, and on the correct type of payment plan. We also want to talk a little bit about something called temporary extended public service loan forgiveness. So in 2018, there was an amendment made to this public service loan forgiveness process because so many people were denied loan forgiveness based on not being on the correct type of payment plan. So as I mentioned, not all payment plans qualify for loan forgiveness. Listed up on the screen, you have extended, graduated, consolidated standard, consolidated, graduated, and then that normal standard plan. Now, the standard plan will count for all public service loan forgiveness, but some of these extended and graduated payment plans do not typically qualify. What TPSLF did is it extended for a temporary amount of time any payments made on these types of plans do qualify for loan forgiveness. So it is technically limited funding. It has not yet run out. So if you think you might fall into one of those categories where you've made payments while on a plan that wasn't a standard or an income-driven repayment plan, come talk to us. You probably qualify for temporary extended public service loan forgiveness, and you might be eligible for loan forgiveness or to start tracking your payments. Just another thing to keep in mind here, some of the people who, if you've submitted an application prior to 2019 and you were denied for public service loan forgiveness, you might want to consider coming and chatting with us or submitting another application form, since some of these little rules have changed. So you might have been denied based on being on a graduated or extended plan. So some of your payments might not have counted the way that they would now. So come chat with us. We might encourage you, if that is the case, and you do have the 120 payments needed between all the different types of repayment plans, to submit another application form and see if we can get your loans forgiven. All right, so final thing, that was a lot of information. We tried to keep it really short and quick. Again, it's a really complicated process, so I cannot encourage you to come and talk to us in person or on Zoom more, because we can really look at your loans, make sure everything's set up, and help you at least do that first round of submitting your PSLF form. So meet with the coach. We'll decide if PSLF is right for you. In some cases, it might not be. Like if you don't have a large enough student loan balance, it won't make sense to pay on your loans for 10 years, as an example. Or if your income is too high, that might be another reason to consider other forms of loan repayment. Also, if you have loans that are not direct loans, really good reason to consolidate your loans. Again, we're happy to do this with you. Go take a look at your loans right now if you're banking on public service loan forgiveness, just to make sure that they all say direct in front of them. Submitting that PSLF form would be another good step to make. And then finally, applying for an income-driven repayment plan for when your loans are in repayment again. So this is a process that repeats every year because you do need to reapply for income-driven repayment plans to stay on them. And we also encourage you to resubmit that PSLF form every year so that you can see your qualifying payments go up by 12 every single year. And if there's a problem, we can intervene early and figure it out with FedLoan. All right, so that concludes these 4 areas of eligibility for public service loan forgiveness. And remember to get in touch with us by emailing financialeducation@umontana.edu or calling us at 406-243-2800. Have a great day.